Do I think that it's getting the hype is getting pretty insane? Like, of course.
Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be interviewing Ryan Watkins. Now, Ryan Watkins was an investment banking analyst at Moelis & Company. Today, he's a senior research analyst at one of the largest cryptocurrency research firms in the world called Messari. Messari services clients anywhere from Blocktower Research, or Blocktower Capital rather, to Coinbase to Chainalysis. So welcome to the interview, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So let's get right into the questions. Can you tell me a little more about both yourself and the firm that you currently work at, Messari?
Yeah, so I'm a senior research analyst at Messari. I've been here for about a year and a half, just mainly focused on doing kind of like equity research style coverage for crypto assets, specifically in DeFi and stablecoins, but then also just Bitcoin, Ethereum, because I mean you can't really avoid those two because they're so significant.
Right.
And then Messari, just more holistically, I guess a simple analogy would be to think about a Bloomberg for crypto assets, and I think so basically that's just like data and analytics. Research is kind of what we do in summary.
Okay. Okay, so what led you into the crypto world? I mean, you come from a traditional financial background, Moelis and Company, and then you made the jump into cryptocurrency. What was the impetus for that decision?
Yeah, so I had known I wanted to get into crypto for a long time before I went into investment banking. I guess the story, if I could just go back, would be is sometime in high school, I first heard about Bitcoin just from like hearing about the Silk Road, but the use case didn't interest me. But it did put on my radar, so it became up mainstream press. I'd go and read about it. Now, granted, I wasn't that curious at the time, so no reason to get in. 2016 rolls around. I'm like a sophomore on campus, and I'm looking to get into investment banking, and I hear all these people on Wall Street talking about blockchain technology. Now, granted, like I didn't know like what kind of blockchain technology they were talking about. It ended up being enterprise blockchain technology, but I thought it'd be like cool to go learn about it. So luckily, I had the opportunity to go to Consensus in 2016. There was a kid on my campus who was interning for CoinDesk and had free tickets. So I went and did that. Didn't actually get anything. And in hindsight, the reason why I didn't get it was because the entire focus of the conference was on enterprise blockchain technology. And I just didn't get why people were comparing what seemed like an enterprise database technology to the internet. It just didn't make a ton of sense to me. So uh, yeah, fast forward to 2017, I'm doing like an investment banking internship at Bank of America, just with the plan that I want to go do that full time and then eventually go do private equity is how I was thinking about my career at the time. And I just got like a headline on my desk, like many people did in 2017, that said Ethereum is up 2,500% year to date. And I'm just like, what the hell is Ethereum? And I just started to dig in. And I think one of the first things that was pretty surprising just how polarized everyone was on the topic. There's no such thing as a mild position on it. It was just either this is a complete scam, it's gonna blow up, it's tulips, it's used for criminals, or on the other end of the spectrum, this is gonna change the world. So yeah, so I just started to go in and first learned about like what is money, which is a question I'd never considered in my life. Just I mean, as much as I think some people in the industry like to debate and discuss, I have never had to worry about the value of the US dollar in my bank account from one day to the next. It's just has happened. So I never thought about that stuff. So yeah, I first learned about what is money, where does it come from, why does it exist? This kind of fundamental building block of society that I just never really considered, and it was fascinating. And then I think the second thing that I needed to understand to kind of get over the hurdle of understanding was the concept of decentralization. So at first, that was both very counterintuitive because every single institution that I'd come across previously, you had some kind of central authority to establish order.
Right.
And here you did not have centralized authorities, but you still had order in these kind of decentralized networks. And then two, like I want to see like what did it mean? Like why were people like throwing around this phrase or this terminology of decentralization? Like I didn't know why it mattered. Like why is it important that Bitcoin is decentralized? So I wrapped my head around that. But even still, I wasn't quite like let's go into this industry at that point. I was this is stuff that's interesting from an intellectual perspective and as an investment. What really got me kind of over the edge is when I learned about Ethereum and learned about all the different applications being built on top of it, and had this idea that as ambitious as it was for this industry to attempt to reimagine money, that was also just the beginning of what this industry might achieve.
Right.
And instead, it could be something much broader, like a full-scale reimagination of how many of our different institutions work, whether it be monetary, financial, kind of like internet institutions, et cetera. And once I got that idea in my head, I was very much committed full-time to going this industry. And I was 2 months away from going to investment banking, so I wasn't going to give that up coming out of college. So I didn't know anyone in this industry, and I didn't know what the opportunities were. But yeah, I mean, the entire time while I was in investment banking, I was, laser focused on going into crypto and networking with people and learning still. And then, yeah, just finally when the right opportunity came up, I bounced and came here.
Okay, awesome. So it seems like you were already dead set on crypto even as you entered into investment banking.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a stepping stone.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. You also brought up that there was a title that landed on your desk, Ethereum up 2,500%, which is a great segue into my next question, which is, what criteria do you use at Messari to assess the merits of a cryptocurrency project?
Yeah. So it's a combination of things. I think, and this also, I guess, ties into like my kind of research process. I can't say that it is like this very formal process of like step 1, step 2, step 3, and then I look for these criteria. But generally speaking, I'll hear about a project, and the first thing I'll do, because there's so many of them, is I'll just go in, try to get up to speed as quickly as possible and get to a point where I can determine, do I continue to do deeper research or do I just stop, right? Because there's plenty of different projects out there where I can just know from going through like 15, 30 minutes of their blog post that this is either a stupid idea or this is something that's interesting. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go through like the blog post or whatever is the quickest way to get up to speed and just kind of read through like very high level, what does this product do? Who's behind it? Why are they building it? Just like answering these basic questions. If it is interesting enough, like big idea, big addressable market, talented team behind it, interesting kind of mechanism design, at least from a high level. Usually I'll try to dig deeper, and that usually involves reading protocol documentation, reaching out to a team for a conversation, looking at videos if there's any. I mean, literally anything that I can get my hands on to try and understand how this protocol works. And then I guess if I were to kind of try and pick out some of the criteria that gets me excited.
Right.
And so obviously one of them would be large addressable market. Another one would be, and I guess this also depends on the stage as well. So for something that is like very early stage, like you might not have some of these metrics, but for say something that's already out there, and I like to see like it has a little bit of traction. So if it's like a decentralized exchange, I want to see, okay, it has volumes that are accelerating, it's gaining market share. Here's why it's gaining market share, right? I want to see community, and community is like a great thing for a couple reasons. One, it creates strong hands, so which is good. Two, it creates a base of people who will contribute to the project. So over time, these projects plan to progressively give more of their control and influence over to the community away from a core team. And in order to do that, you need to actually create a community that feels empowered to make decisions, right? So that is a huge benefit when you have a community that is, very engaged at a very early point. Not just because at the end, like they will ultimately be in control, but because even now, like they can bring ideas to the core team that ultimately get implemented and will be huge, right? So, I think one example of this is with synthetics. So synthetics is now, one of the top DeFi protocols, in the industry.
Mhm.
And back in 2018, maybe 2019, they originally had like a cap supply, and a community member actually suggested like, hey, what if we eliminated our supply cap, doubled the supply, or actually 2.5x the supply, and started allocating incentives for people to stake. And this would be a way of bootstrapping liquidity for synthetics.
Mhm.
And that ultimately got implemented. And then after it got implemented, synthetics took off, right? Because you need people to stake for synthetics to be able to have liquidity, and you need liquidity for traders to come and trade on synthetics, right? And the rest is history, as they say. So that's like a perfect example of community like really creating value, right?
Right.
And then I think like maybe just a final thing was just thinking about it's like quality token economics. So I don't always think that you need to be able to capture value immediately as a project.
Okay.
What's most important is that you create something that's valuable first, right? Before you think about capturing it.
Right.
That being said, all things equal, what I like to see is that a token is an essential component of a protocol. Like it's a central part of the value creation process. So it's not like you have a protocol that's working and then you just throw some token on top of it and it just starts taking some fees, because that just adds friction.
Right.
Instead, you want the token to be actually something that creates value. So, one quick example would be MakerDAO, right? The token just doesn't collect interest from people who borrow MakerDAO. The token is actually used to backstop the protocol in the event of insolvencies,
Mm.
right? So it's actually a key part of what makes this system work, right? And should capture value as the system grows, right? As
Right.
MakerDAO issues more DAI, more interest will be paid, and that will increase the value flow to MKR holders, right? So that's like a good example of token that is essential to the value creation process, and will capture value as the system grows.
Thanks for the criteria there. Above and beyond the criteria, people want to know what it's like working inside a crypto research firm. Now that also involves kind of like what the workflow is in terms of how you go about picking a coin to do a research piece, all the way to actually publishing that research piece. So what does that look like? What's the workflow like at a firm like Messari?
Yeah, I think every day is different. I think the research, this being a researcher is a very kind of flexible role. You don't really have like that many deliverables on a daily or weekly basis. It's really just about producing quality content, every say 1 to 2 weeks, and in between, you can kind of decide when you want to work and when you don't, and what direction you want to take your work in and which direction you don't want to take your work in. So if I describe like the research process high level, I'm just constantly, talking to different people in this industry, whether it be investors or founders or other researchers. I'm constantly on Twitter and Discord and Telegram, just learning as much as possible and staying up to date in the industry.
Mhm.
And I'll usually have a million ideas for topics I want to explore next, just by immersing myself in this space. And the ones that are most interesting to me, I'll just decide to do research on, either because I think it's a trend that is emerging, something that is important now that I just want to get smart on. And basically once I have that, I think the last one I did, just because kind of as example, is on this new category of projects called non-peg stablecoins, which is pretty fascinating. It's like basically this idea that what if we had stablecoins that were not pegged to the dollar, and were instead just stable? So first question would be like, is what the hell does that even mean? Like, if you're not stable to the dollar, what are you stable against? Right? They're not stable against other fiat currency either, right? They have these mechanisms in place to stabilize themselves. So first thing I'd do if I was researching that is be like, okay, well, is there a common theme across all these different projects where I can say how they're stabilized, right? First, like another thing I want to do is, why are people creating these protocols in the first place? Like, what is the problem they're trying to solve? And the problem for that would be, dollar peg stablecoins are one, dependent on central banks, and two, prone to regulatory or have introduced regulatory risks because they are pegged to dollar, right? So if you eliminate those two, then say DeFi could have independent currencies for people to use that are stable, right? And that'd be important. So really just try to like immerse, the first thing to do is immerse myself in those ideas and really try to understand, why is all this stuff being created, and what is the potential here? Like how big can this be? And then once I have that idea on like kind of like the market and what the problem it's addressing, then I'll go and do like a deep dive on the different protocols, right? And it's in that sector. And like I said, I'll first go through the blog post, just get a high level mental model on how this stuff works.
Right.
Then go through protocol documentation, like do a deep dive to see how the underlying mechanics work. Or reach out to the team, have them answer any outstanding questions, get to know them, and that will kind of help fill in the gaps. And then I start writing, and through the process of writing, you just solidify how you think about these projects. It makes your thinking more clear about them. Additional questions may come up, and then they're ping the team or think through them. But that's like high level how I guess the research process would work.
Okay. So a group of projects that a lot of people are currently talking about, kind of the hype of I guess 2020, 2021, is NFTs. Do you have any particular thoughts of NFTs? Is it all hype? Do they have an actual use case? What are your thoughts on NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely both hype and promise. And I guess I just don't like the word or the phrase NFT, because if you think about it, NFT is just like a token type. Like that's like saying, like, what do you think about like ERC20s, right? We don't talk about ERC20s. We just talk about different tokens that are on Ethereum. Right? You talk about like DeFi tokens. Talk about like Web3 tokens. So that's pretty like my one qualm. I guess where I think most of the hype is for NFTs right now is really around kind of like digital art and collectibles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like very excited by it. I think that the ability to kind of track and kind of verify like digital, and also make scarce like digital items, like digital collectibles, digital art, is powerful, and be able to distribute it across the world and sell it across the world is very powerful. Now that being said, do I think that it's getting the hype is getting pretty insane? Like, of course. I mean, the way that people are talking about, just specifically digital art and collectibles is that if this is some kind of multi-trillion-dollar market, like it's going to change the world, and that's just not what it is. And yeah, so that's probably like the short synopsis on my thoughts on NFTs. I guess TLDR, exciting, empowering, but yeah, obviously very overhyped right now.
Okay. That brings me to my next question, which involves kind of institutional players in the space. Oftentimes we hear, institutions are coming in, we should get excited. And we've kind of been hearing that for the past 5 or more years, that institutions are entering this cryptocurrency space. As an insider, can you tell us what the truth is regarding institutional activity in this space? Do you see a lot of institutional clients? Do you see new people coming in? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so they're here. And they've been coming since, really since the pandemic first began, and you start to get the first wave of big time institutional players announcing public positions in Bitcoin, and kind of getting interested. So like those are like the Paul Tudor Joneses of the world that got in. You have like the corporate treasuries who got in, kind of like Michael Saylor being the biggest one. So I guess yeah, the short answer is they're already here, especially for Bitcoin, 100%.
Right.
As far as for assets outside of Bitcoin, they're coming. I mean, we see this even with our kind of like clients as well. That there are, you know, people at or like institutional like investors that we can kind of among our client list, who are yeah like paying for information that is beyond just Bitcoin, right? So yeah, they are here for Bitcoin already, and they're coming very quickly for the rest of this asset class. And that's not even just from my view from Messari. That's also just from different like things I've heard either through like calls I've had myself or through secondary knowledge of different funds raising money to invest in the space or making allocations that aren't announced. Like they are here.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So speaking about institutional investment, I mean, oftentimes people like to talk about institutional investment because it is the headwind for continuous proliferation of cryptocurrency and a continuous spread of cryptocurrency to people that already are not using it. So do you see cryptocurrency becoming a mainstream asset where, maybe every other family has a cryptocurrency wallet that they might use to buy and sell goods, at the local grocery store? Or do you always see it as being a speculative asset class that's kind of pushed to the side and maybe won't be allowed to grow to that critical mass?
Yeah, so yeah, I 100% think it will become mainstream in the coming years. I guess where there's nuances around how and then what assets. So perhaps this is a surprising take, but something like Bitcoin, I don't think it will ever be mainstream, just like gold isn't mainstream.
Right.
I think Bitcoin will likely be and it will likely continue to serve as a speculative investment for the foreseeable future, just like gold is, right? No one uses gold as money, right? Like no one's like, at least the way that we think about money, right? No one's bringing a bar of gold to go pay for something at some store. Most people couldn't even tell you what the price of gold is today if you ask them, right? But it's used by investors for hedging inflation, hedging geopolitical risk, right? And that's kind of the function that I believe Bitcoin will play for the foreseeable future as this kind of like macro asset. And I think that's where it has product market fit. And I think that's good. Like that's a massive market, right? Gold is worth $10 trillion, right? If Bitcoin did that alone, like that is an incredible accomplishment. Where I see kind of like real mainstream adoption, as in everyday people using and interacting with this technology, is around DeFi, NFTs, stable coins, kind of these use cases. And for DeFi, I think DeFi in two ways. One may become kind of like the backend infrastructure for many fintech applications that people will use, or people may eventually just directly interface with DeFi protocols through very clean, user-friendly interfaces and use these DeFi protocols for just the basic financial services like lending and borrowing, buying and selling assets, saving, right? Raising money.
Right.
That's kind of what DeFi will be used for. Stable coins. I think stable coins will probably what people use for payments, I think, before any other cryptocurrency. And those they'll just be like paying for things online or going to a store and getting a QR code. I think that makes a ton of sense. And I know personally, like just even from some angel investments I've done, like I've done them using like USDC, right, or another stablecoin. It's like that is real product market fit. Like to be able to send money across the world or on a weekend in a matter of seconds versus days or not being able to do it entirely depending on the the jurisdiction you're in or the time you're doing it. Like that's very powerful. And NFTs, I mean, NFTs are kind of already mentioned, right? Like the ability for people who aren't interested in any of this financial or monetary stuff to participate in this economy, right? To sell their art to people, to create art, um, to like organize with social tokens. Like that to me is what mainstream adoption really looks like. It's like the non kind of investor types like using this stuff on a daily basis. So yeah, I think mainstream adoption is coming. It's just kind of that more like nuanced view of which technologies are driving that adoption.
Awesome. Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I mean, I know that to your point, central banks send each other gold, but nobody on the street today actually uses gold for transactions, and the average person doesn't know the price of gold. All right. Awesome. My last question for you here is, I might have some viewers that are asking, this seems great. I really like cryptocurrency. I love researching cryptocurrency. I like what Ryan's telling me right now. So what tips do you have for those individuals that want to break into the cryptocurrency research space that you'd like to tell them?
Yeah. So the best way to get into the space is to one, get on Twitter, start sharing your thoughts, start reaching out to people. You would be very surprised at how open this industry is. I mean, everyone has open DMs. People are very responsive. I remember like when I was first trying to get in the industry and I would reach out to people. I mean, I could get in touch with, I was just like some, 22, year old dude. And with like no reputation in the space, I can go and reach out to some, CEO of a project or founder of a project or a managing partner at a fund, right? And people would respond. So that's definitely one avenue. And then another avenue is like just start actually researching and sharing your thoughts, right? So Messari has this new program or revamped version of a program we've been running for a long time, which actually I did back like a year and a half ago, called the Community Analyst Program. We now call it the Research Hub. And basically what it is that anyone can come to Messari and start contributing either asset profiles. So that's doing a basic kind of descriptive profile on your favorite project, or like pro research, which is writing and doing analysis on some project or some trend. And we as a Messari team will review your draft when you submit it, and then I think it's published and it's up to standards. Like we'll pay you, right?
Does that
So
still
that's like a
exist?
great way of.
Does that still exist?
What was that?
Does that project still exist? Can people still do that?
Yeah, no, it's like literally just it just was revamped, and yeah, there's like over 100 analysts in the community now who are contributing research and getting paid. So
Okay.
yeah, it's like not only just a way of just making worth their time, like you can get paid, say anywhere from $200 to $500 for your contributions each time.
And that they can access that on the Messari website?
Yes, so you can. Okay, so I guess you can either like DM myself, send Messari research an email, just inquiring about it. But yeah, like it's both a way of getting paid, and then it's also a way of just getting your name out there, right? So doing research, getting it published on Messari, and then us distributing it to all our newsletter subscribers, our Twitter followers. We have pretty tremendous reach, and yeah, it's just a great way to just get recognized, and then ultimately just build a kind of resume that you can go to other people in this industry with and be like, hey, like this is what I've written. Because I mean, like don't get me wrong, like if you did like say like investment banking or worked at some big technology company before getting into the space, like this definitely helps. But like in reality, no one really cares what your background is in the space. And if you could just demonstrate that you can do the work through this program, like guaranteeing like the top funds will be coming after you, like 100%.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me because my first job, was interning at BitMEX Research, and I got that position by simply reaching out to BitMEX Research on Twitter and then submitting an article and having that reviewed, and then later, accepted onto the firm as a intern research analyst. So that makes total sense to me, and it resonates with me. All right, Ryan, that's the end of this interview. Can I get your Twitter handle if somebody who does want to reach out to you?
Yeah, so it's Ryan Watkins _.
Okay, I'll have that up on the screen on this video. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Ryan, for being so willing to come do this interview with me. I do enjoy it. If you guys like this interview, make sure to like, subscribe, and of course share this video with your friends. I also have a Patreon link in the description box below, a Discord link in the description box below, and a Calendly link in the description box below if you'd like to speak to me one-on-one. Once again, Ryan, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks. Likewise.
Cheers.